If sequel is a dirty word, then prequels are even more of a tricky proposition. It's one thing to follow a plotline forwards from its conclusion into the next logical stage, but being able to go backwards and make an engaging origin story is a tall order. As it turns out though, there are plenty of good video game prequels that manage to tell interesting stories and show us our favourite characters at different times in their lives. I'm Cy for WhatCulture.com and these are the 10 best video game prequels. Number 10. Street Fighter Alpha. Once upon a time, the old joke went that Capcom were afraid to count to 3. Street Fighter 2 got numerous upgrades and became a cash cow for Capcom, both in the arcades and at home. When it came time for a brand new entry in the series though, that made for a lot of pressure. Thankfully, Street Fighter Alpha paid off. Even after spending years tweaking Street Fighter 2, Capcom weren't resting on their laurels. Alpha introduced many important instruments to the Street Fighter toolkit: air blocking, chain combos, and the tiered super combo system, which gives players a lot of choice about their super moves. Do you fire them off weak and often, or wait for the all-powerful level 3 super? It's that one, by the way, do that one. Known in Japan as Street Fighter Zero, Alpha takes place between the original Street Fighter and its sequel. In fact, it specifically references the Street Fighter 2 the animated movie duel between Ryu and Ken and M. Bison. Street Fighter Alpha's placement in the timeline between Sagat and Bison's tournaments allowed for a more character-led style of storytelling, with its cast wandering around the world pursuing their own goals. Alpha also introduced new characters who would go on to be regulars such as Dan, as well as crossing Final Fight characters into the Street Fighter universe. Number 9. Pokémon Legends Arceus. For years, a portion of the Pokémon fanbase pined for the series to take some risks, with the most vocal demand being an open-world game. Even the most die-hard fan could recognise the series had been spinning wheels for a long time, at least from a gameplay perspective. Being a spin-off, 2022's Pokémon Legends Arceus allowed Game Freak to try some new things that largely pay off. At best, it can be described as a pseudo-open world, but Legends breaks several tenets of the franchise, allowing players to battle wherever they stand and be attacked by agitated wild Pokemon themselves if they're not paying enough attention. Pokemon Legends takes place an undetermined amount of time before every other game in the series, stylized on Japanese history. In the Hisui region, which will eventually become the Sinnoh region, the Survey Corps are doing their best to study wild Pokemon to catalogue them. This is eons before the technology of the Pokédex exists, and players are tasked with filling out a book with their findings. Similarly, Pokeballs as we know them aren't around, and so players must gather and craft apricorn fruit into pre-tech equivalents. Pokémon Legends Arceus is a cute and charming look at the never-before-seen past of a world familiar to so many gamers. Number 8. Grand Theft Auto Liberty City Stories. Grand Theft Auto 3 changed the video game landscape when it arrived, forever altering the look and feel of GTA itself, so it seemed poetic that the first time the franchise went fully 3D on a handheld, it should be a game that takes place within the same location and story. Liberty City Stories takes us back to Rockstar's fictional version of NYC in 1998, 3 years prior to the rise of Claude and the events of GTA 3. The game puts players in the shoes of Tony Cipriani, an important NPC in GTA 3, and explores his past as he returns to the city to rise up the criminal ladder after laying low for 4 years. This leads directly into Tony's position in Grand Theft Auto 3, where he's second in command of the Leone family. The game makes very few concessions considering it was originally developed for and is best played on the PSP. The entire city is here, which can be explored in a variety of vehicles whilst listening to one of several radio stations. Outside of the plot, Liberty City Stories doesn't skimp on optional content like community missions, street races, and hidden packages. Returning to Liberty City is a joy, allowing a nostalgic look back at the location that first catapulted GTA into the mainstream. Number 7. Halo Reach. Halo Combat Evolved began with the destruction of the human colony Reach, and throughout the years, fans were told how integral this planet and its fall were to the story. The last days of this planet were the battlegrounds for a bold mission which saw a group of Spartans save the AI Cortana before she fell into enemy hands. The final Halo game that original developers Bungie made appropriately was Halo Reach, which allowed fans to explore the planet for the first time and meet the soldiers who sacrificed themselves for the success of their mission. Standing out from Halo's standard sci-fi pageantry, Reach was a darker and more despairing story that put players in the shoes of those soldiers. Every Spartan who took to the fields of Reach will remember the gut punch that was the final objective: survive. fighting in the haze for as long as possible, knowing this is a story that can't be changed. Mechanically, the introduction of armor abilities changed how every player approached Halo's familiar combat, with sprinting and jetpack usage making things more fluid and chaotic. It also grew the multiplayer portion of the series in every way, both the standard PvP approach as well as the cooperative firefight mode, and a bigger, more badass level creator. A sublime bow out for Bungie and a superb prequel. Number 6. Castlevania 3: Dracula's Curse. For this entry, we're going way back to the past, to 1990, to the Nintendo Entertainment System, and to when Konami actually used to make games for their selection of IPs. Yes, I'm still bitter. Castlevania 3: Dracula's Curse was the first home console Castlevania title in the series not to star Simon Belmont, and instead it introduced us to Trevor. Yes, that Trevor from the Netflix series. Dracula's Curse provided quite a bit of the trajectory for the franchise's overarching plot and the anime adaptation by introducing us to Alucard, Cypher Belnades, and Grant Dynasty. These four would-be vampire hunters give gamers a lot of choice when it comes to different playstyles and how they can approach the sprawling world of Dracula, which, unlike the original game, now has branching paths in its level selection. It may not seem like much now, but considering the game is over 30 years old, it was definitely a rare case when it came to player agency. After Castlevania 2: Simon's Quest had tried to reinvent the wheel and got stuck on its own spokes, Castlevania 3 was not just a stunning return to form, but set the stage for a lot of the future of the series. Its degree of choice would go on to inform games like Symphony of the Night, and its plot cemented the foundation for the vampire hunting Belmont lineage. Number 5. Deus Ex: Human Revolution. Deus Ex's setting is one of conspiracy theories and nanotechnology, exploring a world on the brink of collapse due to warring factions and a deadly pandemic. By exploring the past of this scenario in the series prequel, players can get a better understanding of how things got to the state they're in. Set 25 years prior, Deus Ex: Human Revolution's main character is Adam Jensen, who, after being involved in a terrorist attack, is enhanced with nanotechnology. The player explores the growing social divide between the elite who have access to this power and the lower classes. Importantly, Human Revolution really expanded and added detail to Deus Ex's world through its story and incredible environments. Player choice is paramount. Combat is satisfying from both a balls-out, gun-down-everyone perspective, but also, importantly, if you choose to go slow and stealthy. In terms of the story, Human Revolution's world is rich with optional content for players looking to explore. Human Revolution retroactively laid the groundwork for the original Deus Ex in wonderful ways, and despite Adam not being the most fleshed-out protagonist, the game was so popular that he took the lead for the series' next entry, Mankind Divided. Moreover, its blend of first-person action and RPG elements was something that many other games took notice of in that console generation. Number 4. Devil May Cry 3: Dante's Awakening. Devil May Cry 2 is widely considered to be a low point in Capcom's demon blasting series, and most can agree that it was certainly not the right way to follow up on the success of the first game. It simplified gameplay in every way, and Dante's fun, obnoxious personality was basically switched off like a light bulb. The direction of the next game was clear. It needed to be much more like the first Devil May Cry. Not only did Devil May Cry 3: Dante's Awakening bring back all the amped up ridiculousness that fans loved, it also distanced itself from DMC2 by being a prequel to the original. DMC3's plot perfectly ties into the first game by focusing on and filling out the backstory of Dante and his relationship with his brother Virgil. There are plenty of references to that first story, some cute and some clever, that make for a lot of aha moments for players everywhere. It truly feels like a love letter and, to some degree, an apology for the DMC2 misstep. More than that, it was a refreshing kick to the teeth, a challenging, stylish action game that was truly the follow-up that fans had been waiting for. Number 3. Super Mario World 2: Yoshi's Island. When it comes to timelines for their games, Nintendo is a company of two extremes. In some cases we get intense, sometimes confusing and often hotly debated messes like the Zelda timeline. In others we get something like the Mario franchise, where all of its games seem to just take place in a timeless void. It's sort of inconsequential which Mario games go where. After all, Mario saves the princess again isn't exactly the sort of story that impacts a deep canonical lore. Super Mario World 2: Yoshi's Island is a rare exception to the rule, however, and in doing so establishes a lot of truths about many Mario characters. Clearly Mario has known Yoshi since essentially his birth, and at the end of the game we even get a shrouded look at the adolescent Bowser. Whilst it's never made clear why Bowser kidnaps baby Luigi, this encounter must be the first time that all these famous characters have interacted. As for the game itself, whilst the original Super Mario World is the plumber's beloved first jump to 16-bit, the prequel's gorgeous hand-drawn aesthetic makes it a timeless classic in its own right. It is largely considered a masterpiece in the Super Nintendo's already strong library, and one of the best 2D platformers of all time. Number 2. Yakuza 0. Yakuza has an incredibly dedicated fanbase, so it says a lot that many of them would agree that the series' 2015 prequel is one of the best the franchise has to offer. Setting a game 17 years before the original allowed for Yakuza's writing team to really explore mainstay hero Kazuma Kiryu's character in new and bold ways. Instead of the man the established fanbase knew, Yakuza 0 introduces a younger and more hot-headed take on the character. It also brings longtime fan favourite Goro Majima closer to the forefront, and makes him a main playable character for the first time. In order to shake up the formula, Yakuza 0 innovates by introducing multiple fighting styles for its protagonist to switch between. More than that though, the game is just the perfect example of everything that this series has to offer. A dramatic, emotional story threaded through a world of insane hijinks, numerous side games, and hours upon hours of content. Yakuza 0, being a prequel, actually offers a great jumping on point for new players, and as such was just what the series needed to establish itself better in the West. Reports that Sega had sold more than expected, or that they had even been understocked in some markets, show just how keen new players were to jump into the series. Number 1. Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. Kojima always was keen to grow out the Metal Gear Solid series in interesting and realistic ways, and the jungle setting for MGS3 was an opportunity to really transform the depth of the series' gameplay. Not only can players equip different styles of camo to better blend in with their location, but they can also scrounge for food to make sure Snake isn't suffering from hunger. It makes Snake's dependence on his surroundings very clear, and makes MGS3 a very different prospect from its forebears. But this isn't the same Snake from MGS1 or MGS2. Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater is, even 17 years after its release, the earliest entry into the franchise's timeline. It stars Naked Snake as he infiltrates a Soviet Union base to save a kidnapped scientist, but finds himself caught in a political coup. The winding story of MGS3 lays the groundwork for the series by telling the tale of Naked Snake's ascension to Big Boss, but it also introduces many important aspects and characters that would go on to be major parts of the former and future games. Unlike other entries in this list, it's technically possible for players to mess with the MGS timeline via their actions, although don't think you'll go unpunished if you kill important characters. And the award for most unique game over screen ever goes to Time Paradox, if you take out anyone who needs to appear later down the line. And that's the list. Let us know what you thought down in the comments below, and any other video game prequels that you very much enjoyed. Make sure you like this video, share it with your friends, hit the notification bell, and of course, subscribe. I've been Cy for WhatCulture, and have a good week.